Hello everyone, Tom from Golden Goal here. I'm just going to quickly take you through a Gameweek 12 preview in Fantasy Premier League. I'm going to start with the fixtures. I've got some stats from a website that I recently discovered called FPL Factory, which is a completely free resource with a number of useful analytical models that can help you select your team for the week. Go through my team, how I got on, and what my decisions are going to be for Game Week 12 and dealing with the blank. And then I've also got some Twitter questions too. So let's get right into it. I thought I'd first start by just showing the Game Week 12 fixtures. It's quite easy to see, these are just on the FPL app, but I thought I'd just quickly run through and pick out the fixtures that I think are standout and the players and the teams that have got a good fixture essentially. So first up on the Tuesday, I think Brighton, Forest and Crystal Palace and Wolves, they're tasty fixtures for Brighton and Palace. I think Zaha could well come away with a return against Wolves. I think last season Wolves were one of his most prolific opponents, if that makes sense. I think Zaha did really well against Wolves last season, and I know a number of people have already got him in their team. So yeah, hopefully we will finally get the Zaha haul that we've been looking for in that one. And yeah, I really like the Brighton and Forest fixture as well, particularly Leandro Trossard. I think he's a really good shout for Game Week 12. He's actually, in my opinion, a bit of a punty captain pick, but we'll move on to who I think is the best captain. I also think Forest is a good fixture for Brighton defensively. So for those with Sanchez already, I think you've got a good fixture for him and the likes of Duncan Webster, I think you'll see on the models, but they've all got good chances of clean sheets this week. Bournemouth and Southampton, Brentford, Chelsea, Liverpool, West Ham, Newcastle, Everton and Man United, Spurs on the Wednesday. For Solanke owners, I think this is a good fixture for him. Southampton haven't looked particularly good all season, and Bella Kotchap, their shining light centre-back, I think broke his arm at the weekend as well, so they'll have a bit of a makeshift defence, will Southampton. So yeah, fancy Solanke in that game. Brentford against Chelsea, obviously Tony being the outstanding pick from Brentford, I think he can score against pretty much anyone, but I think I would definitely back Chelsea players in this game. Mason Mount obviously getting a brace against Villa. I really quite like Aubameyang for this game. Mount and Aubameyang from Chelsea. I think the only thing with Chelsea is Potter has been changing that team so much game by game, and there aren't many players that you can say are particularly nailed. One thing to say is that Kepa is looking like he is first choice for Chelsea now. I don't know if he's gone up in price yet. He might still be 4.4 million. But yeah, if you've got a team that you're really happy with for Game Week 12 or are looking to wildcard in 13, I think Kepa is looking like a really good pick for goalkeeper. And I think maybe just to soften the risk a little bit, you could pair him up with Ward. So Kepa and Ward, you could have two starting goalkeepers, and then if Kepa gets benched, for example, you can bring Ward in. But yeah, I really like Kepa, and his performance against Villa was ridiculous. He was making some unbelievable saves and came away with a tasty point score. So yeah, I really like Kepa. And that Liverpool v West Ham fixture, I think Salah is my outstanding captain for the weekend. He excelled in that game against Man City, looked really sharp, back to his best in my opinion. The only thing to say about Salah is that he was playing right up front basically in the centre forward position against Man City, and that was because Jota started on the left, or Jota started on the right, I can't remember, but Jota started on the wing, which allowed Salah to play through the middle. Unfortunately though, Jota picked up an injury in that game, and yeah, I would say that was almost Salah's best performance of the season because Liverpool played him through the middle. So it'll be interesting to see how they line up against West Ham. I think Salah has been a bit quiet of recent because of the role he's been playing. He's been basically hugging the right touchline most of the game. So it'll be interesting to see how they line up. But I think based on the performance against City, I think Salah has hopefully refound his form. And for me personally, owning him, I think I have to captain him. Newcastle, Everton, I think Trippier owners and Pope owners will be hoping for a clean sheet. I've also got a bit of an outside shout. Well, outside. I think everyone knows of Callum Wilson. but I'm not sure many will own him. So I think certainly for a 1 week punt, Callum Wilson's worth a shout. Man United Spurs. I think traditionally Spurs tend to do quite well against United. Their styles match quite well. So both teams like to play on the counter. But I think Spurs especially will try and sit deep in this game, try and soak up some pressure and hit United on the counter. And I think there are probably goals in this game for Kane and Son. Exactly how the result goes, I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if Spurs score and the likes of Kane and Son pick up some attacking returns. And then on the Thursday, we got Fulham, Villa, and Leicester and Leeds. I would have been very excited about the Leicester-Leeds game for Maddison, but unfortunately he dived in the 94th minute and got a yellow card and a suspension. So very unfortunate for us Maddison owners. So I think really the only couple of players worth highlighting are probably Mitrovic and Pereira, Andreas Pereira. Quite a lot of people will have Pereira on their bench, I imagine. And I've seen a few people considering using a hit to take him out for someone else. But I think the Villa game is a really good fixture for Fulham. I definitely expect Mitrovic to get some kind of return. And if I needed to start Pereira, I wouldn't be too worried about it. My experience so far this season of starting my bench fodder has been really good. Especially, I can't remember exactly what game week it is. I think it might have been game week 8. But I started Harrison Reed and he came away with a 10-pointer. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't be afraid of starting Andreas Pereira for that one. What I thought I'd quickly show next was FPL Factory Stats, like I mentioned at the start. So we've got some goal scoring odds and some defender return odds that also include an expected minutes model. So usually when you see goal scoring odds and clean sheet percentage, etc., it doesn't factor in expected minutes. It just essentially lists all the players in the game, regardless of their minutes, and says this is their chance of scoring if they play 90 minutes. Whereas this model includes expected minutes, and I don't think I've seen, certainly not available for free anyway. I've not seen a model of this nature before. So just looking at those goal scoring odds, I think players to note there, obviously Salah is top of the list. I think he really is the outstanding captain for Gameweek 12. Already mentioned Callum Wilson and Harry Kane. I think they've both got a good chance of doing well this week. Darwin Núñez, quite like his chances against West Ham. I think he will play given that Jota's injured. Mitrovic, mentioned him, good fixture against Villa. I think he's in with a shout. Danny Welbeck, he's like 1 week punt territory, isn't he? But I think Wilson is better as a 1 week punt than Welbeck. McAllister's an interesting one. I think his stats are padded a little bit by penalties because his non-penalty XG is pretty low. So I would say that his penalties are boosting him up. Other players that I like, definitely like Solanke this week. I don't think I'd be going out of my way to buy him, but if I already had him, I'd certainly be happy to start him. I quite like Aubameyang, but because he played at the weekend, I'm not entirely sure he will start against Brentford. We all love Ivan Toney. He's going to play 90 minutes, got penalties. I think he can score against anyone. Trossard and Zaha are in there as well. They're both in my team at the moment. Then Sterling, Son, Watkins. Well, you can see all the players there. But yeah, hopefully just seeing those numbers helps you maybe pick between a couple of players that you might have a decision to make on, or your game week captain as well. I'll say again, I think the outstanding captain this game week for me is Mo Salah. And then just moving on to the clean sheet odds, I'd say really I'd only look at the top 4 expecting a clean sheet. Brighton, Liverpool, Newcastle and Chelsea. Brighton looking pretty hot for a clean sheet against Forest. Liverpool not looking too bad for West Ham either. I think their performance against Man City showed that you can still trust in that Liverpool defence. Obviously, they haven't had the best start to the season. There's no denying that. But hopefully that game will give them some confidence to start defending properly again. And then we got Newcastle and Chelsea. It's really annoying my position because I took Trent out last week thinking he was injured for a few weeks, and then he was back in the team. Well, not in the team. He was on the bench and then came on the pitch in the Man City game. So I may well be bringing him back in this week for a hit as well. I've got Nico Williams, who you can see there has a 6% chance of a clean sheet. So I think a Nico Williams to Trent move could be a good idea this week. But I'm going to mull that over. I haven't sent it on that transfer yet. And then, well, it sort of follows on from the clean sheet odds, really. But looking at the defender return odds, again, this includes expected minutes. So, as I said, it combines, the likelihood of players to play with their likelihood of having returns. Unfortunately, Trent isn't on this list. I think maybe the model still thinks that he's injured, so is counted him out. But Trent, I unticked the expected minutes, and Trent was up there on 47%. So he's basically in third place on this list. So you got Dunk, Webster, Van Dijk, basically all the Brighton in Liverpool defenders are up there. Newcastle defence are in there, same with Chelsea. And that's about it, really. Yeah, it's full of basically Newcastle, Chelsea and Liverpool, as so are the clean sheet odds as well. Hopefully that was useful just to have a look at and see players that you might want to pick for the week. FPL Factory is a completely free resource. I don't get paid by them or anything. I just thought their content was really useful and you don't have to pay for it. So definitely visit their website. There'll be a link in the description to take you there if you so wish. Next, I just wanted to show you my team going into Gameweek 12. I've made one transfer so far. I took out Maddison for Trossard. I was slightly worried about a Trossard price rise because I think he will be a very popular transfer in for Game Week 12. Although I don't really care too much about price rises, but I just sent it on him. So I've got Guaita in goal. Nico Williams, I'm not overly keen about him. I could well swap him for Trent for a hit. Trent or Robertson for a hit. It's one I'm going to think over today. Trippier, Dunk and Guehi, looking pretty good for a Newcastle and Brighton clean sheet. And then Palace, they weren't particularly high on the odds, but they managed to keep one against Leicester, and Wolves have looked pretty poor going forwards. So I've got a pretty good hope that they can keep a clean sheet in that game. Salah in as my captain. I've gone Pereira deep from my bench, but he can easily return against Villa. I'd be happy with anything from him really for 4.5. Trossard and Zaha. Mentioned Zaha, got a good record against Wolves. I think last season he scored in both fixtures from memory. So yeah, he could do well this week. Certainly happy to start him. And then I've got Mitrovic and Solanke up front. And then I haven't actually sold any of my Arsenal and City players. I've just stuck them on the bench because I am quite hopeful that the players that I've got replacing them can do well enough without needing to sell them. I think my team's looking pretty good for this week. After my Game Week 9 wildcard disaster, I think things have picked up a little bit, especially with Solanke as well. He has done better than I expected him to, and I'm really pleased to have him in my team. That's where I'm at. And like I said, I think the one decision left for me to make is what do I do with Nico Williams? I think, like I said, I'm mulling over a -4 for a Liverpool defender. What I thought I'd do for the last segment of the video, I asked for some Twitter questions. I've got one from FPL Spartans, and I think he probably has a similar question to a number of other viewers of this video, so I thought I'd just cover that. So Spartans is saying he needs a 1 week punt to replace Gabriel Jesus with. He's got 1.8 million in the bank, and he's going to wildcard in Game Week 13. So he's thinking of Firmino and Nunes and is wondering if I have any suggestions. So I think, mate, I would take you back to the goal scorer odds that I had on screen earlier, as you can see. Top of that list is Salah, as we know. And then my 1 week punt shout is Callum Wilson. He's up there with Nunes, but he's ranked slightly higher. I think he's got a good fixture against Everton. Whenever Callum Wilson plays for Newcastle, especially at home as well, I just think Newcastle have the St James's Park factor. I think playing at home really does give them a proper boost. And every time Callum Wilson plays for Newcastle, he looks like scoring every game. So yeah, I don't think money should worry you this week if you're just laser focused on a 1 week punt. I know Callum Wilson is priced quite substantially lower than Darwin Núñez. I still think he's the best 1 week punt in my opinion. If you're swapping out a forward, you can't go for Salah. You might already have him, but for me, 1 week punt is Callum Wilson. And yeah, that concludes the video. If you enjoyed what you saw, leave me a like, rating and subscribe to the Golden Goal YouTube channel. I'm going to try and do an FPL Gameweek preview every week of the same sort of nature as this one. And you can follow us on Twitter for, just tweets about FPL and occasional captaincy polls when there's a bit of a decision to make, like there is for Gameweek 12. So yeah, until next week, I'll see you later.